Welcome, Benziga Nation. We've got another great interview lined up for you here today. This time it's with Deborah, who is a privacy services leader with CohnReznick's. Deborah, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me on.
You know, privacy, AI, there are always some fun topics and important topics in today's world as well. But for the folks that might not be familiar, give us a quick brief overview of what is it that your company does.
Sure. So as privacy services leader here at CohnReznick, my role really involves guiding clients through the complexities of the data privacy regulations that continue to keep shifting literally day to day, and helping our clients measure their privacy hygiene and then build out programs that really support revenue growth and generation. We offer a comprehensive suite of services, including due diligence and transactions, different types of assessments, building out policies and procedures, and of course, running the show when you can. Alongside that, we like to assist our clients in implementing technologies and processes that safeguards different types of sensitive information, because really our goal is not just to protect the data, but also to foster trust with our clients' clients by demonstrating that strong sense of commitment to privacy and really helping them use it as a way to grow and sustain the growth of their business.
Privacy hygiene. I love that term. I'm going to need to find a way to kind of incorporate that in my
Yeah.
day-to-day life so I can sound cool to my friends. But so much of the conversation has been around AI, but how many people are truly looking at the negative impacts that it could have when it comes to privacy, when it comes to data security as well? Why should they be kind of discussed jointly, right? When it comes to AI, privacy combined, why does it matter?
Such a great question. And AI and privacy really need to be discussed together and in a very tightly coupled way, because all of these AI systems that we hear about often rely on these very large data sets that will inevitably include personal and sensitive information. So as more AI becomes integrated into various aspects of the business and daily life, whether it's your note-taking, your calendar scheduling, we've really got to ensure that these systems handle that data responsibly and make sure that it's being used in an ethical manner. We know that, commonly when we're on a website and we're prompted for customer service through a chatbot, right, that might be using AI. ChatGPT, we love to hate on it, right? But the reality is it's changed our world and our lives, right? They're using large language models, all built on sensitive types of information, right? So as companies use data to augment their business processes, to find those efficiencies, to help them scale using those large language models, using generative AI, right? There's got to be that question and that conversation that happens of, well, how do we use this data? How do we use it in a way that's ethical? How do we reduce our biases? How do we feed these large language models the right types of data to make sure that, yes, we are growing our business, we are changing our processes, but we're not inadvertently exposing extremely sensitive types of information about our customers that they would not really want exposed in that way, right? And conversely, when we talk about privacy, a lot of times we start talking about things like data minimization. How much data should a company really be collecting? How much data does a company really need in order to facilitate a customer service process or in order to cache fulfillment, right? We talk about things like consent and transparency. So we've got to be talking about both of these really large topics together, because as much as we want to think that, isn't it so easily folded into our day-to-day, the reality is that there are major privacy concerns with a utility that's really still emerging.
I want to kind of go across the sea, if you will, to the European Union that recently passed the EU Artificial Intelligence Act. From my understanding, it's the first comprehensive legal framework for regulating artificial intelligence. But what exactly does this act entail?
It's such an interesting topic of conversation, and I'll contextualize it like this. Before we spoke about privacy in the US, the European Union was way ahead of us with the GDPR. Similarly, the European Union is once again ahead of us with regulating artificial intelligence. So the EU AI Act focuses on ensuring that the AI systems that are being used by businesses are being used in a safe manner, that the way that they're being used is transparent, and that there's this respect for the fundamental rights, including privacy of the data subjects, information that's being used, right? So from a privacy perspective, the Act really mandates stringent requirements around the high-risk AI systems. It classifies different types of AI into different types of risk categories, but the ones that are used for critical infrastructure, for education, for employment, these systems have to undergo this rigorous risk assessment and really make sure that the data governance standards are being appropriately conformed to, that there's privacy by design by way of protecting personal data, and the companies are being thoughtfully transparent, requiring the developers of AI systems to provide clear information about how their data is being used, for companies to really understand what that means to their own customer subset if they're using a third-party application. And ultimately, it looks at, are you telling your customers how your information is being used? Are you implementing the right measures to protect the information and privacy of each of those individuals?
There's many reasons, I would think, whether it's on the moral side, the ethics side, or hey, you might get slapped with a big fine side. Why should said companies care about this act and take it
All of
seriously?
all of the above of what you've just mentioned. So AI is, let's call it the tech topic of the day, right? But the notion of folding in emerging technology in companies and society, that's definitely not new, right? We saw it when automation hit, we saw it when machine learning hit, and we also saw it when Alexander Graham Bell gave us the telephone, right? That was emerging technology for its time, right? So we've really got to think about it, I think, more contextually. Companies are going to continue to build tools using AI. They're going to continue to leverage AI solutions. They're going to continue to use things like chatbots on their website and, AI to automate telephone banks and call centers, right? But let's talk about why they should take it seriously, right? The European Union is setting a very, very high bar for how we believe AI governance and compliance is going to continue to evolve, right? Non-compliance, yes, can result in things like significant penalties, to reputational damage, right? Loss of your customer trust. Nobody wants to be the guinea pig that you did wrong by. It's also, I feel, reflecting a much broader global trend towards a stricter regulation of AI technology, the use and implementation. Sometimes companies are using AI without really understanding what that means, right? What does it mean to have it as part of their supply chain? And there's got to be this alignment that companies are creating between how do we do this for our business? How do we sustain our business, right? How do we enable emerging technologies, but how do we protect ourselves in doing it? Because embracing the Act requirements is not just going to be about mitigating legal risk. It's also going to be, very much to demonstrating, and I want to use that word intentionally, a commitment to the ethical use of the AI, and really to be able to corner that market competitively today, you've got to do all of the above.
No one wants to be the guinea pig that gets made an example of. I believe you me. Last question for me before I let you go. Since we're on the topic of privacy, since we're talking about AI and companies themselves, what privacy considerations should companies have in mind as they launch and implement the emerging tech like AI?
What a great question. All right, so let's start with the foundation, right? I grew up in the world of business operations, right? Think of your business. Make sure that your AI initiative is aligned with where your company's strategic goals are headed. Make sure you've got a real objective behind what you're trying to do. AI should enhance the business, right? Not just be this standalone concept that one team or one project uses. And to that end, right, really delve into what those use cases are, right? What is the effort that it's going to take? Steve Jobs once, and I shared my favorite quote, right? Steve Jobs, was once quoted saying that, a great idea is 10% of the work, right? You've got to make sure that there's clarity about what kind of data you're going to use. How is it going to support that use case? What are the risks that come with the use of that data? And then in launching and implementing, we'll call it the emerging technology, right? But AI is one of them. Think through from a privacy perspective, do you have the right data governance program in place? Is there maturity to that governance program? Are you able to support things like data minimization? Are you able to stipulate to your customers that we're only using data that you've given us consent to use? Was that consent obtained properly and implicitly, right? Are you using data that should have been purged previously? Do you have the right data retention around the data set that you're using? Do you have the right security everybody opens up the news, every day, and there's literally another data breach to be reported, another company that wasn't quite sure how it happened. We don't know how it happened. Guess what? It's happening. Will continue to happen, right? And really make sure that your people, your employees, they're your first line of defense, that they understand the risks of using artificial intelligence. If artificial intelligence is not a corporate-wide strategy, if it is being used maybe by a sales team or a marketing team, educate them on the risks that come with it and the risks to the business that they may be introducing inadvertently, right? But what we always counsel is, as a company, try to be transparent to the extent possible about your data practices. Make sure you're being truthful with those data practices. Don't overpromise and underdeliver how you might be using customer data or protecting that data. And really measure your hygiene. Look at, how is data and privacy impacting your business? Are you aware of the risks that using AI and these large language model sets are bringing, so that you can, as a business, be prepared for what it takes to mitigate that risk.
I mean, there's such great things to talk about. It's often mentioned how the biggest threat to the country isn't necessarily by land or sea, but by cybersecurity aspects of things as well. So
I won't disagree.
Yeah, you know more than I do in this space. So scary to hear that. But thank you for the great conversation. I really appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. That was Deborah, who is the privacy services leader at CohnReznick.